My name's Kirk Swenson. I'm your Vice President for College Advancement. And first thing I want to say is welcome revolutionaries. So this is part of our Revolutionary Challenge process. Both Parke Rhoads and his colleague Ashley Woodward are here with us from Vantage Consulting. And we want to get right into the workshop here. But I just want to say welcome. I'm actually really glad to have all of you here. And I'm going to turn it over to Parke.
Thanks. Nothing spoils the crowd like saying, oh, trust someone, right? Just as a warning, we're going to dive right into some exercises. Learning outcomes. Any good higher ed institution, right? We want to focus on learning outcomes. And I have a big challenge. We've got all sorts of different experiences coming into the room and perspectives. And we've also got people who might be at different points along the ideation path. Presumably some of you were here looking for pointers on, how do I get this to the next point? So I want, just stay with me because I'm going to start up here and we're going to work our way through and my hope is to hit all of these outcomes. But we need to start to some degree right at the beginning. In addition, I think that is part of that process of assuming we're all at the beginning also helps to enrich the ideation process for even those of you that have a mature, what you think is a mature product. I don't doubt that, but you might discover that if you come to it fresh with a new group of people, they might knock on some other ideas. And that's my hope. We're going to have 3 exercises. I just want to level set here, your expectations. The first one's going to be heads down, all of us kind of jamming on stuff for a couple of minutes. Then you're going to share that content with 3 other people. Then we're going to all get together and try and cluster these ideas into group moments that we can then turn into pitches. This will be a simulation of the Revolution Challenge process. So we're getting much, much more directed and specific to what my interpretation is. And I think that's really important here too, just as we're level setting, that I am not inside the Rev Challenge process. I'm an outsider. I have done many, many incubator processes like this for many institutions, so I kind of know. I've been on either side of it. I've helped create them. I've helped set on panels. I've pitched to them as well. I've had to eat my own dog food, right? So what I'm representing is my perspective. Also as an alum, as somebody who has taught here, and now as really an employer, right? As an entrepreneur of my own, and what my perspective is for higher ed institutions or Dickinson students. So let's dive in on it, and what makes a good idea? This is very open-ended. That's kind of the fun of it as far as I'm concerned. But we need to get the ball rolling somewhere. How many of you have seen the 30 circles exercise? Are you familiar with this? Yeah, don't worry, we're not going to do it. The theory behind this is what I want to focus on. The objective is, okay, you got a sheet, it's got 30 circles on it. You've got 3 minutes. Fill every circle, turn every circle into a recognizable object. And you can even start with level setting. How many people think they're going to get all 30? And yeah, most people raise their hands right away. Why do we do this? First of all, pictures, language, words are something that is a higher order development in human development. I'm sure I'm telling you, many people here probably know this better than I do, but it forces us or leads us sometimes to focus too much and to dwell. If you stay at the superficial level, if you're engaging with images, there's a lot of research that says that you can stay much more creative. So, you have the impact of this versus that. It just engages instinctively a little bit more. You can tell a story. Our brains are just wired a little bit more there. So we're trying to move from give me as many words as you can to something that's much more basic for us and much more instinctive. There's a lot of research that says that leads us to more creative processes. So there are different kinds of this as well. So we start with a ball, right? Baseball. And there's iteration. Well, how many balls can I think of? And let's keep going through, and you just get to these sequences. And then there's a divergence there as well, the variation, being highly creative, moving from a ball to a really bad wheel that a 3-year-old could do a better job of, but this is what I got. A clock, you just keep going through, okay, what are the different things I think that are circles, and being highly creative. And when you run the 3 minutes and you kind of ask how many people got it right, you get 2 clusters, really. People who tend to get around 15, 16, 17, they get halfway through. And then there are these high performers that are on the other side of the curve who manage to get a bunch. And that's really interesting. Why are these two populations, people who are just slamming through and it's no big deal? So you can ask, why? What did you do? What techniques did the people who are really good at this do? Are they just smarter? Are they just better at creativity? No. They didn't assume. They didn't confine themselves. They thought, well, you know what? There are circles there. I can make one a bicycle. I can make a stop sign. I can make a snowman. And when they share that with other people, then you get a lot more variation and ideation opportunities, and you can go a lot faster. And it's that shared strategy that also really helps. So if you run it again, more people succeed. By the third time, almost everyone's hitting 30. So it's that point of like the team dynamics and the sum being greater than the parts, the imagery, all those things that I'm really hoping to recruit. So here's the exercise we're going to do. I would just want ideas or observations. We're really focusing on the challenge. If you have a solution already in play, that's fine, you can draw it. But I want you to draw it. And so we're going to take 5 minutes. I want 4 sketches. Why? Why 4? Well, it forces some of you who have really refined ideas to get that down and move on. And see if you can come up with other things. It also allows people who are really coming in fresh to really think broadly. There's no right answer here. Strategies, think fast, don't dwell, don't go too far. This is not fine art. Usually when I do this, I have one really clear idea, and I get to it, and I fail to do the other 3. And so you know, you'll get a chance to drill into it later. It's about experiencing what it's like to come up with that idea at a gloss level. You ready to start? All right, begin. That's it. How do we do? Yeah? It's tough. It sounds like plenty of time, but it can be really tough. I love applying cynicism. So why the heck are we doing this? First of all is the imagery, right? The imagery helps to generate the creativity. This is a ridiculous exercise. I get it, right? But there are things that this is going to lead to something, and there are reasons that we do these processes. The other piece is that. Trying to bring some brevity into it. It's another way of adding constraints, and often the constraints are where real creativity happens because you're working around things. Your brain is already making calculations or thinking differently with those constraints. This is classic design thinking, taking the constraints and making them the parameters to arrive at the solution. We're going to share, if you can group into triplets. There's a lot of research about 3 groups of 3. I'm pretty lax on that. If you feel like you've got a table of 4 already and you're happy with that, that's fine. But ideally 3 people. And the challenge is when you have 4, you now have more time constraint. To all of you, look at your 4 ideas together and to try and bring them into something more mature. This is not about selecting one person's illustration and one person's illustration. This is more about synthesis, about seeing how there might be themes or ideas amongst the sketches. And the challenge is to have your group of 3 move those 12 possibilities into 2 things that feel like a pretty solid idea, a problem statement and a potential solution. To illustrate it first, and then add some keywords. The reason for doing that with the tags at the top is so that what we're going to do later is, with a small group like this, we're going to try and facilitate and cluster these ideas to figure out our teams. Why do we do that? A lot of the success, especially in the academic incubator space, these sorts of academic ideas, is in recognizing the diversity of thought and breaking down silos. The biggest successes in these processes are in these teams that are very, very diverse and all aligned on a mission. So you're now recruiting all sorts of different perspectives and ideas and talents and everyone is independent but focused on the same idea. So acknowledging that the 3 people in the group, the 2 people on your team might be hopefully are very different than you. That's a good thing because they might have very different perspectives, might have come up with different ideas, and they might respond to your idea differently. I encourage that. What really helps here, you're tight on time. So really staying on focus, and I think actually of all of this, the thing that really helps me is to try and keep things down to a 2-sentence pitch. Problem, solution. Just state the problem. There is too much trash piling up at the hub on Friday. I am thinking about some way of removing that trash or reducing its buildup over the week.
Like, for example, I never took one of those classes, but I had lectures about it.
Then that translates also into all kinds of benefits for the college.
So to me, the college does a lot of things in the community.
Do you guys want to get up and we can all kind of huddle on this wall and use this as an idea space? Or that might be a great way to do this. Actually, yeah, go ahead. Everyone throw your stuff up on the wall and we'll go through it. I see interdisciplinary, marketing, alumni, perspectives. There are a lot of keywords here. Moving people. Does anyone have something that they feel like is along a similar vein? Interdisciplinary or some space off? Yeah.
So building like a resource sharing loop between the farming community, the college, the businesses, and the Carlisle community. Give the products or raw materials and the education to people who don't have it.
Whether that's learning why some of the buildings downtown have brick facades, or kind of being able to go and interact with people at Project Share.
Does this feel like a team? Do you think you guys could get together? Yeah. Right? That's kind of what we're heading here for. So let's just pause on that for a moment and think that that might be one group focusing on that.
The potential developments of solar and electric car charging and clean air at the warehouses is like, I mean, that could be world-renowned news, and we could be a part of that.
Are there any other themes there that we think we could step away from interdisciplinary that those things might underscore?
The theme that I see is a different way of combining experiential learning and curriculum.
So this is where you guys, I'm passing the baton to you. So how do you sort that out? How do you guys want to sort that out? That's definitely a really good point. How do these things stack underneath that idea? What we're going to move on to next is starting to think about how we run these into the Rev Challenge themselves. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it, but we're going to use these as models to progress through how do you refine these things into something that you can submit. So a lot of this is bringing in design thinking, which is to take problems and focus on them in a productive way. And for me personally, one of the things that I do as a consultant is to focus on some of the undeniable truths. For instance, traditional institutions are really struggling. There's a sense of that, and part of the issues are enrollment. Enrollment is declining. There are just fewer and fewer students coming. They have more and more alternatives to marketplace. They can go to Khan Academy. They can get all sorts of learning. We're also having a hard time keeping students, right? The retention rates are pretty low. Students are changing. The culture is changing. There are a significantly fewer, less than 10% of the students now prefer class time alone. Students are actually, in some cases, going around the professor and learning on YouTube and coming back to class. And that is their preferred method. And they don't often tell you that. There's a lot of surveys out there that are proving that students are seeking a lot of supplemental material, and it's really enriching their learning. As an employer, I think, too, about the gap that I experience. Our job does not exist, didn't exist 10 years ago, and there's no curriculum to learn it. But, this is a big but. Everyone, I think, often is focused in the past 20 years on STEM and these big institutions. And the truth is that there's a small liberal arts school that can turn on a dime and is really focused on student outcomes. And in fact, if only for maybe not the most affordable tuition, the learning outcomes for the students who have negative indicators, challenges going through the school institution, low income, first generation, immigrant, they succeed much more closely way tighter to the norm, 5% within the norm, in small liberal arts schools, whereas in public institutions, they drop off at about 30%. So this was gets us to the Rev Challenge, and this is the meat of being here. What is it? Really, it's just an incubator. It's really just a structure to try and sponsor and leverage all the smarts in the community and saying, you know what, you have a voice. And not only that, but we're going to help you bring it to us, and then we're going to help support testing these things. there's an initial pitch round. You're going to come to people, a panel usually, through a process, and it's a pitch. It's just a round, and eventually it's going to get greenlit. What now? Well, you've actually got to do it. And they're often pilot projects, essentially, and you test it out, and you roll it out, and you see, essentially in a very short cycle, is this working? Does this make sense? Do we need to fine-tune this? And you feed that back in the system the next year. And so instead of really trying to, for instance, create a whole new department, which takes an enormous amount of research, resources and years and years and years of work, you can just test some sort of interdisciplinary program, major or focused, and test it out for a semester and see if that works well. These examples came from the website. There's more information on the website. You can certainly tune in. This is the panel. I think a lot of people look at this and say, oh, these people are here to judge me. But in fact, they're really coaches. They're going to not say no, or you're stupid. They're going to say, yeah, but can you focus a little bit more on this? And the people who succeed in these processes see that and don't see it as judgment. This is not the panel that grilled you to get your PhD or to grade your paper. These are people who are out in the field or are in your own community here who can really help you hone your ideas. This is their criteria. It's not secret. It's up there. What they're looking for, looking to make a big impact here. We want to make sure it aligns with their strategic priorities. There's a clue, right? So you can go other places and look for that. The quality of your proposal. How qualified and how well situated are the roles of the people in your team? Are these people who can execute on this? The potential for partnerships, meaning is there an opportunity here to collaborate with somebody else, especially somebody in the community? Bonus points. Resourcefulness. Are you on target here? Is this really what it's going to take? Are you being realistic about it? Can it be smaller? Can you break it down? Does it have to be so big? Is it going to generate revenue? Or is this something that's just going to cost the institution more? Strategic framework is a great reference for this, right? This is a compass heading for where the institution is going. And it helps to break down some of the things you might want to focus on. Again, multidisciplinary teams are very successful when there's alignment. Can you imagine what this institution is like at 2035, or what it needs to be for the learner of that era? And those are the sorts of questions that can really help to think about thinking big and connecting dots from your idea to where we're headed. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes. The next exercise is really honing your pitch, and this is the end of it. This is the fun. This is what I hope will help you find a way to create a pitch, even if it's not the one you're doing today, but the structure of it. I want to focus on something that really helps me, which is focusing on the why, the golden circle. A lot of rhetoric, even for me, I tend to start with the what, and I work my way up to the why. Here's what this sounds like. You've heard a lot of companies like, we are Hewlett-Packard. We design the best in lab equipment and research computing. We employ only the smartest engineers. Buy Hewlett-Packard because it's really great. Apple flipped it around, right? We're Apple. We think different. We want to change the world. We do that by making electronics that help to capture and facilitate every aspect of your life, from the creative to the mundane. We do that by manufacturing computers and electronics that are friendly and helpful. We're Apple. We think different. Don't you want to buy one? So starting with the challenge, the problem statement, which is exactly what you did. What is your focus? What are you thinking about that generated your solution? It's the why. The applied solution, what is your proposed solution? Who's involved? Who benefits? How are you and your team going to support that? And why? Why does anyone care about my idea? Here's a structure that I'm offering for you. It's a canvas. It's often helpful for me, and I think it fits with the Rev Challenge. The why, start with a challenge, the task and the purpose. Then your proposed solution to it. You can work into that, who's your target market or audience? And then work in the so what, that one last kicker at the end to get people connected to, if the challenge might seem a little small now, that there's a bigger thing in the end, that you're headed towards one of the strategic goals. I'm going to have to think one up on the spot. So at Dickinson, we feel that we have some of the best and biggest athletic facilities in the Carlisle community. And we've noticed that there's an untapped potential into the CrossFit community. We envision a program where we can create Red Devil XF that will allow our gym facilities to be available as a commercial gym for the Carlisle community to come in, and our students will become their trainers. We'll get practical hands-on knowledge for fitness, and in addition to that, the community boost of events like Train with the Dickinson football team. We are seeking funding to launch the program, market it with staple gun posters to the poles around the community, and a target of 100 memberships by the end of the year, with the idea that the revenues will then go back into buying better gym equipment and increasing the program, why not fivefold in the following year. Here's where you guys are free to make this your own. If you're not into drawing, fine. It's just about having some presentation, because I'm going to get to your groups and ask you to give me a 1-minute pitch. You got 1 minute to pitch to the rest of us. You think you can do it? Yeah. All right. Okay, let's do it.
Everybody has different languages, and if we can make like place-based learning or like world learning, like I know there's like a difference.
There's global diversity.
There's global diversity, but that's
Go there because because it's part of the library or whatever. Like libraries are the best model for this kind of space that we're talking about.
Right.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, so at Dickinson, we feel community engagement is an untapped potential. So we envision a place-based keystone opportunity that will focus students' academic experiences beyond the limestone walls. So for example, we have EMT training that you could do over the summer, or as like an internship kind of a possibility. We also have like a global internship program where you could go globally and do an internship to be involved in the community there. We also thought about like educating. If you're interested in education, you can go to like Carlisle-based schools and educate them, just like community-based learning. Our team appreciates relevancy in education, so we want to make those skills available to our students. Sometimes I feel like it gets lost in the mix. Okay, I ran out of time. Okay, thank you.
Right. Good. Yeah? So how much of that idea did you guys walk in here with? None of it. That's pretty good. Who's next?
Okay, so our idea, we've come up with a nice title, Hope Factory, activating hope through resiliency. So at Dickinson, we feel that there is a certain hopelessness and immobility among the students feeling an inability to activate their own motivations. There's a lot of mental health issues around campus, and this extends from their own like community environment into the greater world. A lot of people my age feel that they can't change anything about climate change, and so we'd like to partner with, we'd like to partner with a nonprofit that Lissy found that would put like an actual recycling plant on campus.
It's called Precious Plastic. Look them up.
And we'd also like to collect other objects that can't easily be recycled, so that one would be just for plastic. But those other objects, you could then write wishes on top of, which would actively engage students, and ideally we'd eventually extend it to the Carlisle community, and they'd be actively writing something that they want to do to make the world a better place, or to make themselves happier. And when this is displayed, anyone who reads those wishes would feel a similar feeling.
Great. We're there. Nice. Nice work.
All right, this is a project that cannot be presented in 1 minute. We call it this is about renewable energy and energy efficiency. The greatest problem we have is combating climate change. If we can manage that, forget about all the other problems. This is the one big problem. We propose to bring in alumni who work in the renewable energy field to talk about our students, but also to come in and talk to the Dickinson community, the Carlisle community, the Cumberland Valley, everyone about renewable energy and energy efficiency. This is a multiple win-win-win situation. The students win who are in the classroom. They get to know an alumnus and possibly get an internship. The alumni wins because they get reconnected to the college, and alumni who are reconnected to college are better donors.
All right, nice work. So I'm going to ask Kirk to walk us through what's next.
So I promised I'm going to leave most of this for Q&A because Parke actually did a great job of summarizing what it is we're trying to do in the Revolutionary Challenge. He also gave you some really good hints, like read the strategic framework and make sure that your ideas link up to the strategic framework, because that's absolutely something that we'll be looking carefully at. Look for partners, right? All of those, you got some really good tips there. I'll give you another hint. You can do a video submission. You can do an audio submission. You can draw it. It doesn't have to be written in a typical way. You can do something that'll stand out a little bit. That 200-word piece is really important because that's, if we're being honest, most people are not going to read. Let's say we get 50 proposals, right? I don't know how many we'll get, but if we get 50, no one's going to read all 50 full proposals. What are they going to do? They're going to scan through the 200 words up front, okay? So that 200 word is really important because that's the first thing we're going to ask people to, do you like this idea? Did you have a question?
Yeah.
As a whole, it was described as something that would help Dickinson change the world. I'm assuming that the world is a bit too large of a scale for us to start our pitches on. Can you give us a more reasonable scale to fit our proposal into?
No.
No.
I think you should dream big.
Okay.
I really do. I would not limit it. Think of it this way, though. What we do here as a college, right, is we help educate students who will go out into the world and change, improve it for humanity. And so that's actually, if it's not something that our students can take and apply in the communities where they land and have positive impact on the lives of others, I'm not sure why we'd be here in the first place.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to say thank you to all of you for being here tonight. Just join me in thanking Parke for walking us through that.